Good day, everyone. So, our topic for today is about approaches and strategies in learner-centered teaching. I am Dr. Irving R. Principal. So, these are our learning outcomes. First, determine the various strategies and approaches in learner-centered teaching. Second, describe the various strategies and approaches in learner-centered teaching. And third, you will analyze various teaching demonstrations on their various approaches and strategies. So in that case, you may also look into the different teaching demo that can be found in YouTube. So for our lesson outline, teaching approaches and then teaching strategies. Okay, so let us begin with the approaches. So you have to remember that this topic will help you in designing your own lesson plan and as well as in the implementation of that plan. And part of the design of the lesson plan is for you to identify the kind of approaches or methods or strategies that you will employ in your lesson plan and during its implementation. So the first one is the constructivist approach. So since we're talking about learner-centered teaching, in my previous video, I have discussed already what constructivism is. So this time it is how you apply this in your teaching learning processes. So these are those that are included in the constructivist approach. First is thinking skills, activity-based, and direct instruction. So let us talk first about thinking skills. You have to remember also that this is applicable in all subjects. So whether you are teaching mathematics or sciences, or Filipino or Araling Panlipunan, or perhaps you are assigned or you will be assigned in teaching elementary pupils. So these are both applicable. No? So thinking skills, we have the RMFD activity. By the way, this one, no. So most of the content of this PowerPoint presentation is based on depth order. So R MFD activity, R recall, M model, F familiarize, and D decide. So in the RFMD activity, for the recall, your students will be asked to recall past experiences. Of course, you have this content or topic, and then if you are going to utilize this one, no, so there will be recall, recalling their past experiences in connection to the new lesson, and then model, follow procedures or steps. In this model, of course, you have to explain the procedure that they will follow. And then, since the term is model, you are the one who will be modeling the procedure. And then after that is familiarize. So based on the modeling that you have shown them, so they have to repeat the performance. And we call that as part of the scaffolding. And then the last one is decide or form a conclusion. So as simple as that. So there are variety of topics wherein this could be applicable. So another one is activity based. So we have the three A's activity: act, analyze, and then apply. For act, giving simple workshops or coaching. So the teacher will be the one to give simple workshops and coaching, and then the students will be the one to analyze and apply. So for analyze, they have to compare and then abstract. Okay, so it could be there's a summary or there are some situations that they have to um, make generalization or make comparison. Then after the analysis and they will apply. So for application or apply, they will use the concept in the second step and then implement that concept. Okay, so there are a lot of topics wherein you can use this, no? Depending on the topic and depending on the subject that you are teaching. Okay, so let us now proceed to direct instruction. So this is one of the easiest, no? However, since we are talking about learner-centered teaching, so less um, utilization of direct instruction. So we have here the TGA activity, tell, guide, and act. So for the T, it's tell. The teacher will give guidance about the activity and then guide, facilitate the process. So we are also tasked to facilitate the process and then apply. The students will be the one to apply the concept. So there are no other explanation about this. It is very simple. You have to give guidance about the activity. You have to facilitate the activity, and then the students will apply the concept on that particular activity. So again, this is very applicable most subjects or in all subjects. No? So for example, your let's say your topic is about cooking pinakbet. Okay. So for tell, you have to give guidance. So what will be the how to do it, how to cook it. So you have to give guidance. You have to tell what are the ingredients of pinakbet, what are the procedure, and then after that is you have to guide them. So this time they will now do the process. Have to identify the ingredients. They have to learn the different terminologies like boiling, or cutting of vegetables, or so on and so forth. And then after that, they have to act. So this time there will be an actual cooking, which is the application of the concept. Okay, so as simple as that. So another one is collaborative approach. So a while ago, in constructivist approach, you have learned there that there are a variety of activities, and then from the activities, they will formulate the knowledge that they have learned. So, diba, the main purpose of constructivism is that they will be the one to construct the knowledge that they have gained from the activities that you have given to them. Now, for collaborative approach, from the word itself, so there is a collaboration among members of the group. So collaborative approach is done through group activities. So one is online collaborative, Jigsaw Method, think, pair, share, integrated process, approach, project management, and peer teaching. So let us begin with online collaborative. So since it is pandemic, online collaborative is very applicable. So we have here the CPFM activity. So C is for create transparency of expectations, provide clear instructions, form small groups, monitor, and so forth. So online collaborative doesn't mean that you will just simply tell your students to form a group and then tell them to conduct meetings or brainstorming or tell them to do a group reporting and then that's it. So under online collaborative, we have the CPFM, which is the first step that you should do is to create transparency of expectations. So expectations mean that you have to set the objectives that the activity should attain. What are the different expectations out of them during the online collaborative activity? So after creating that expectations, you have the next step that you have to do is to provide clear instructions So this is also to avoid confusion, and so that there will also be uniformity among the output. No, so let's say, for example, aside from the goal, aside from the objectives of the online collaborative activity, what else should you provide? You may provide, for example, the online platform. No, are they going to use Google Meet, Facebook Messenger, via Zoom application, via uh, kung ano man na pwedeng gamitin. Okay? Or what will be the medium of the language that they will be using? No? Are they going to speak in Tagalog or are they going to speak in English? How many minutes in a day should they consume in meetings? So something those are just few of the examples. So there are a lot of examples that you should include in providing clear instructions among your students. Then after that, no, so you have to ask them to form small groups. So the ideal group is between 3 to 4 members. Sometimes 4 to 5 is allowed, but more than that is no longer that applicable in groupings. Then, after forming the small group, of course, they have to conduct already the online collaborative activity. They have to set meetings, and they have to connect with each other. After that, your task as a teacher is to provide monitoring and support. So how are you going to do that? So for example, you may ask them to send you the link of their, let's say, is it Zoom or Google Meet, and then you have to enter to each group activity just for a while, no? So 1 to 2 minutes, or once you are already satisfied with what you have observed, then you can move on to the next group. So the purpose is to monitor whether they are conducting it. And the second one is to give support. So perhaps there could be questions that they cannot answer among themselves. So you will be the one to provide such answer. So another is that integration of information technology or IT in the lesson. So integration of information technology or IT in the lesson may include, let's say, utilization of the Google Classroom or the Facebook Messenger room, or by different online platforms. It could be a form of assessment. It could also be a form of discussion. So depending on the kind of online platform, no, IT source that you will be using. So the point is that it should be integrated with your lesson. Another one is Jigsaw Method. So we have the acronym TIDAR, at the TIDAR activity. So think, discuss, act, and reflect. So again, depending on the topic, first is you have to think, analysis of the problem, discuss, share ideas on how to solve the problem, act, act collaboratively, and the last one is reflect, introspect on the results made by the group. So usually, social issues, social problems, or scientific problems, scientific issues, or any problem in the community could be solved or could serve as a sample for Tinder activity. For example, you may present a certain social issue, and then they have to think or analysis of the problem. Let's say we will show them the picture of traffic in EDSA. So that is for the first step, they have to think analysis of the problem. So what is the problem all about? And then for the discussion, they have to share ideas on how to solve the problem. Okay, so in the discussion, everyone is given a time to tell about their ideas on how to solve the problem. Then after that, they have to act collaboratively. Perhaps they can summarize the result of their discussion and then come up with with a general solution wherein all the members of the group could agree. Then after that step, which is act collaboratively, they have to reflect. No, so what happened to the result? Okay, do you think it is possible to utilize the solutions that you have provided? So something like that. Okay, so you can also use simple problems. No, those problems wherein they can immediately provide solutions. So local and personal problems could be utilized. So another one, I am sure that you have heard of this, think, pair, share. So we have the 2D2M activity. So decide, describe, model, and monitor. So this is applicable to in problem solving in the community problems, societal problems, and so on. So first is decide. You have decide upon the problem or issue to be solved. So let's say, for example, your the issue that you would like to solve is pollution issue in the barangay. So you have to decide. So the first one, okay, you are already decided that you will be the problem that you will be using is the problem in the barangay, which is garbage or pollution. So second step is describe. So the purpose of the strategy and provides guidelines for discussion. So what kind of how are you going to describe, no? What are how are you going to describe the issue? Okay. So and then after that, model ensure that students understand how to use the strategy. So the strategy that is provided here on the second step, you'll be the one to the group will be the one to think. No? So since this is think per share, expected na isa lang yung iyong kapartner. So what is the strategy that you are going to use to solve the problem? And then model, ensure that students understand how to use the strategy. So how you have to ensure, you have to check whether they can be able to utilize the strategy that they have provided. Okay. If there's a need for you to model the strategy, then you may do so. Then after that is monitoring. No? So you have to monitor as a teacher. How did they solve the issue, or how did they implement the solutions that they have cited? No, so that's part of supporting your students whether the solutions that they have provided will work. So another one is integrated process approach or project management. So we have the following, no? The process activity. So first, think of the project as a whole, focus on life cycle design, work together as a team, conduct assessment, develop tailored solutions, evaluate solutions, ensure requirements and goals are met, emphasize the integrated process. So, integrated process approach or project management, no, you have to decide on a certain project that you will give to your students, and then these are the steps that you may apply if you would like to look into the process. No, project approach kasi doesn't mean that the final output is the project itself. There you have to analyze also the processes where the students are taking in order to make the project. So that's why the title is the project activity, the process activity. So the first one, think of the project as a whole. So what is the project all about? So the student will be the one to think, no? And then focus on the life cycle design. Um, how are they going to design the project, no? And then after that is they have to work together as a team. So if you have four members, make sure that your students will work together as one. Hindi pwedeng tatlo lang o hindi pwedeng si leader lang. So dapat lahat sila are working together. And then the next one is conduct assessment. So you have to assess. Are they doing well? Are they not doing well? And then based on that assessment that you have seen, no, so you have to ask them to develop tailored solutions. So what do you think are the solutions that are applicable in the problems that you have witnessed? Then after that, evaluate the solution. So before the implementation of the actual solution, then you have to look into whether it is applicable or not. So you will be evaluating the solutions and then ensure requirements and goals are met and emphasize the integrated process. So integrated process means that these are connected to the different areas of specialization. It's not only about the activity itself, no, but there are a lot of content or there are a lot of topics wherein this could be related. Okay, so the next one is peer teaching. So assign and design the lesson, facilitate the lesson, assess their peers. Now, when you speak of peer teaching, it doesn't necessarily know that uh, one will only give support or one will just watch. No, kaya nga the term is peer teaching. No, there are two teachers teaching one section of the same subject. So the first step is you have to assign and design the lesson. So what topic, what content, what learning competencies will be covered by the peer teaching, and then what kind of lesson plan, who will be the one to do the lesson plan. What are the inclusion in the lesson plan. So that's the first step. Then after that, you have to facilitate the lesson. So since it is peer teaching, it could be there are two teachers teaching the subject, no? Pwedeng hati sila or pwedeng yung isa ay sa difficult topics. Then after the facilitation of the lesson, so you have to assess their peers. Okay, so there will be assessment. It's not only about the assessment on the achievement of the students, but also the assessment of the peers in the implementation of the peer teaching approach. Okay, another one is integrated approach. Okay, so one is it is a scaffold knowledge integration, content-based instruction, thematic teaching and learning by design. So yun. So let us talk first. By the way, integrative approach would mean that there are several, no, there are several approaches that are integrated together. Uh, this may also mean that um, there are different topics that are connected with each other. Okay, so scaffold knowledge integration. We have the 4A's activity, activity, analysis, abstraction, and application. So some lesson plans follow this particular format, no? The 4A lesson plan. So this is the 4A activities. First activity, you have to build on students' ideas. There could be brainstorming. There could be listing of the things that they know, no? And then analysis, make thinking visible. In making in this particular example, no, you have to make thinking visible. There is an analysis on the content. There's an analysis on the student ideas that they have done in the first activity. No? So let's say you have this topic, let's say photosynthesis topic. So they have to talk about what they know about the photosynthesis process, and then after that, no, so they have to analyze. So that is in the analysis. And then you may also ask them to report what they have done so that there could be abstraction. So others, the students will be encouraged to listen to each other, wherein they have to report what they have learned based on the activity and then the analysis. Then after that is the application. No, what's the application in the real life situation of the particular topic? Okay, so that's why it is a very good design when it comes with the lesson plan. It is very simple, but once you have executed this perfectly, you can be able to attain the objectives of the lesson. So let us now proceed to content-based instruction. So we have the activity analysis, abstraction, and application. So almost the same as the first one, this one, the 4A's activity, though the term is content-based instruction, it is more into the content. So there are lessons or there are subjects that are actually focusing on the content. Let's say, for example, there are topics in AP wherein there are a lot of dates, there are a lot of historical data. So that could be applicable, or even in the sciences, no, there are a lot of terminologies, there are a lot of content. So this could be applicable. Another is thematic teaching and learning by design. You have here the AAC activity. You have here apply, analyze, conceptualize, and experience. So for the apply is the students will become creative, no? Analyze meaning being critical. Conceptualize is that they have to design the theory. Uh, and then the last one is experience, new concept with celebration. So in the thematic teaching and learning by design or the AAC activity, it is a bit higher thinking approach. It will involve critical thinking activity because at the end of it, no, there will be conceptualization, and then based on the conceptualization, they will be forming the knowledge that they have learned in the last step, which is the experience. Okay, so yeah, so you can see here that the different approaches that I presented to you, no, are all learner-centered um, teaching, wherein the students are the ones doing most of the activities. Okay, so the next one is inquiry-based approach. So we have here cyclic inquiry model and practicality inquiry model. So we also have knowledge building community model and experiment. So inquiry-based approach is mostly about investigation, asking questions. Okay, so the first one is cyclic inquiry model and the practicality inquiry model. We have here the AICDR activity: ask, investigate, create, discuss, and reflect. You might notice that this could also part of the previous discussion, no? Medyo nauulit na lang yung iba. But if you'll notice here, the first step is to ask. In the inquiry approach, no, students are tasked to investigate topics. So you will not, I will just give them topics, but you will not tell them about the objectives. So for example, you just give them, let's say, noun. No, so you're an English teacher and your topic is about nouns. So you just tell them, okay, noun. So you have to, if they're going to investigate that, so ask to know what, perhaps they would like to know what noun is. Then they have to investigate whether their perception is correct. No, so to analyze, then to create, to form. So perhaps they will write samples of nouns. and discuss to give arguments or discussion among themselves whether the concept that they are investigating is correct, whether they are learning it or not. Then after that is they have to reflect. So they have to check whether they have learned something or not. For the sciences kasi, it is more applicable since in sciences, there are more investigation, no? So for example, your topic is about population. What are those things that you would like to know about population? So that is the first step you have to ask. And then, for example, you would like to know why there is an increasing number of population in your community. So you have to investigate, you have to create, you have to discuss, to give arguments. What are the different things that you have found out, and then you have to reflect on the discussions that you have just made. Again, inquiry model means that they are working together also in a group. No, though this is not a collaborative approach, but inquiry model could include group activities, no? Or there is grouping because there is that part wherein there will be discussion. So you cannot just discuss it to yourself, right? So to you have to assign groupings or group members so that this could be applicable. So we also have the decap activity. Under pa din siya ng cyclic inquiry model and the practicality inquiry model. First is deliberate applicability of the concept, conceive idea or concept formulated, act application of the concept, and perceive awareness on the usability of the concept. So in this particular example, so this is about practicality inquiry, no? Because they are looking whether the concept that you have learned, as a student is applicable or usable. Okay, so the first one is deliberate applicability of the concept. Is the concept applicable? To what extent is it applicable to real life situation? Can we save lives or can we help other, let's say, animals or plants in learning that particular concept? Then conceive idea, concept formulated. What are the idea and concept that you have formulated? And then application of the concept. And then you have to look into whether it is usable or not. So the next one is knowledge building community model. We have here the acronym EIB activity or EIB activity. So the first one is experience, then inform, build knowledge, and understand. Okay, so same thing, no? So you have to set up the concept. So that is the experience. You may provide different activities for them to set up the concept, and then inform, gather, and analyze information based on the experiences that they have learned, and then build knowledge. So, though this is not constructivism, there is this part wherein they have to build their own knowledge based on the experiences, the first step, and then they inform, no? And then at the end of it is the step which is understand, wherein there will be decision making. So first, the last one in the inquiry approach is experiment. No? So in the experimentation, the clue here is that your student should follow the scientific method. Of course, the scientific method includes forming the hypothesis, um, identifying the problem, forming the hypothesis, testing the hypothesis by experimentation. Um, Another is to double check the result, and then form the conclusion. So experimentation is applicable again in sciences. Experiment is different, by the way, from laboratory activities. No, laboratory activities are like experiment, but the results are expected. For experimentation, you do not know yet what will be the outcome. So that's why you are investigating. So the last approach is reflective approach. We have here TTRA activity, self-evaluation, and self-reflection. So you have to think, talk, read, and ask. Okay, so for the think, analyze patterns occurring during the teaching and learning process. So this is a reflective approach is about the students themselves. No, so they have to reflect on their own learning. That's why you have there. The first step is to think. No, so they have to think of those things that happened during the teaching and learning processes during the implementation of the lesson, and then they have to talk, self-talk. So self-talk is asking themselves, no, or group talk done with the teacher or learner, source or of reflection. So that means that it could be self-talk among themselves, or it could be group talk, small group talk, or a class, no, wherein the teacher will be facilitating. And then you have also here read, finding out or making affirmation regarding behavioral patterns, and ask, pose questions to get ideas or opportunities on an area that interests you to improve or develop. Okay, so we are done with the different approaches. So this time, let us look into the strategies. So there are a lot of strategies here that you can use, no? And later on, as you analyze different lessons, you have to look into the approaches and strategies that they have used. So first is singing a song in between or humming a song in between. So this strategy incorporates the appreciation of music in class. The teacher sing or hums a tune to call the attention if the class is noisy or it's not focused in the discussion. So it could be singing or it could be humming. You know? Let's say, for example, the whole class is um, will be doing an activity. So to get their attention, of course, you have to set the rules first. You cannot just sing, no, in front of the class without setting it. That when they hear you sing, they have to stop what they are doing. When they hear you hum, they have to continue what they are doing. When they are noisy and and you sing in the class, they have to respond. So it's like to get their attention. So let's say the class is noisy and you have to sing um, Bahay Kubo. You'll sing Bahay Kubo kahit munti. Then susundan nila yon. So sasabihin nila, ang halaman doon, and blah blah, and so on and so forth. So in that case, you will be able to get their attention. Okay. So the next one is mock jury or trial. So a technique to develop the reasoning skills of students where the situation is held in a mock classroom, which serve as the court. So if your students are familiar with trial in a certain courtroom, so you may use this one. This is applicable to some topics like history of the Philippines. No, you can imitate the way Rizal was judged during his time, or you could also depending on the lesson. No, you may use this wherein there will be two contrasting factors. No, there will be the pros and the cons. There will be the you have to set up to lawyers, no, and then dependent, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so you just make sure that you have to explain the rules so that there will be easy facilitation of the lesson or of the activity. So another one is reciprocal questioning. So students read an article, selection concept, and take turns asking questions. This will sharpen their ability to formulate questions. So reciprocal questioning, um, you have to give them articles of the concept that you are discussing or that you will be discussing. Then after that, among themselves, they have to raise questions to each other based on the article. It doesn't necessarily that they have to ask to answer this to answer the questions. The idea is that they have to form questions. Questions could also be raised to you as a teacher, no? So you can give them, let's say, 10 pages article. Then after 30 minutes, they have to ask questions or they have to write questions. So something like that. And then after that, S, authors share or hot seat. So a student is asked to sit at the center. So maganda to, no? So after the discussion of the topic or after the reporting, you have to form a big circle and then with one chair at the center. And then for each group or for each of the students, you will ask them to sit at the center. And then the reporter will ask questions. So if the person cannot answer it, and then another person will be replace them at the center, and then same questions. So that's why the term is hot seat or author's chair. Para lang ano, nag-open forum, di ba? Sa open forum, yung closed door, nakabilog lahat yung mga upuan, then may isang nasa gitna, tapos siya muna yung ginigisa, di ba? Parang ganun lang din. So another is Phillips 555. So students are grouped into 5 members each. They are given 5 questions to be answered in 5 minutes. So as simple as that. So this can be done before the lesson. Let's say for the recall. It could also be during the lesson after the presentation of the lesson, or it could also be done as part of the formative assessment at the end of the lesson. So another is group mapping activity or GMA. Students are directed to illustrate or to draw the concepts or ideas learned. So maganda to, no? Let's say you have a particular topic na hindi naman talaga siya wherein wala ka naman pinapakitang drawing. So you may ask them to, okay, I want you to draw one figure of speech. So magdo-drawing sila, no? Walang paliwanag na kailangan na isusulat. So sa huli, during the discussion, you can call some of them to explain what they have just drawn on the paper. No, so bakit yun yung dinrawing nila? Would that answer the question? Would that answer the concept? Diba? So yun. So maganda yan lalo na if the answer is not obvious. No? Kasi kapag mga, let's say, I want you to draw the scenario when Jose Rizal was shot in the Bagong Bayan. So madali lang the drawing na sa Jose Rizal, tapos may mga soldiers doon, babaralin siya and so on. So madaling makita. Pero the creativity of the students can also be observed when the topic is far from wherein illustration may not be part of the topic. So yan. So sketch to stretch. Students shall draw the concept, learn individually and presented in class. Dito kasi sa group mapping activity, ay ano pa lang, concept or ideas. Dito naman, almost the same, no? Almost the same. In this part kasi, individually, they will do that. Doon kasi sa kanina, group mapping activity, ay group naka-group pa lang sila, no? And then, dito, individual na nilang gagawin. And then, inside, outside circle. So, ito ang ginagawa ko din to during face-to-face, no? A review technique where there is an inner and outer circle of students facing each other. So, you have to make two circles among your students. So, isang maliit na bilog sa gitna, then isang mas malaking bilog sa kasunod. So, two layers na bilog. And then they have to face each other. So, there should be partners. So, the outer circle will ask question to the inner circle. And then, after, let's say, after 2 minutes or 1 minute, they have to move. So, the outer circle will move. And then they have to repeat. They have to ask another question to the new partner and so on and so forth. Then after that, inner circle naman yung magtatanong doon sa outside circle. So ganun lang, paikot lang ng paikot. And then another is luck of the draw. So ito, lagi natin ginagawa to. No? So you have to write down all the names of your students in a small piece of paper, and then randomly you have to get one piece, and then you may ask them to discuss something. No? So parang part of the recitation. Dati-dati kasi class card, no, binubunot, or index card, may picture mo pa. Ngayon, pwedeng papel na lang. Yung sa modern, ano na yan, sa pandemic times, yung spin the wheel. No? So, clear the teams. Students are assigned to teams, and each student in the team has a number. So, typically 1 to 4. So, team discuss their group answer to the teacher's question. When the team is done, they give a signal. When all teams are done, the teacher calls a number from 1 to 4, and the students with that number rotate to the next group to share their team's answer with their new team. So para bang there are 4 members in the group. So you will be assigned number. So you will be called as 1, 2, 3, and 4. So after your discussion, there could be exchange of group members, like, okay, exchange of number 2 members, or exchange of number 4 members, or exchange of number 1 members, and then new discussion. So one sentence summary. So this could be done pwedeng during the recall, pwede din naman na during the lesson itself, or it could be at the end of the lesson. So you will ask your students to summarize the topic. So you may guide them in questions like who, what, where, when, why, and how, questions about the topic. Another is agreement circle. So, ano din ito, no? So, nakabilog naman ito ng isang malaking bilog, magkakahawak kamay. And then, facing facing each other, nakabilog, tapos magkakaharap sila. Tapos, you will ask a certain question that can be answered by yes or no, agree or disagree. Basta dalawang choices lang. Then after that, you will ask them to step forward, one step forward, kung agree sila or hindi. Or yes or no. So, depende na sa'yo. So, they have to step. Let's say, okay, answer this question. And then, is it a yes or no? Kapag yes, one step forward. Pag no, hindi mag-step. Pwede din gawin mong backward. So, yun. So, magkakaroon ng makikita mo doon, no? Sino ang mag-step, sino may iwan, yun. So, another one is domino. It is a strategy where concepts are written following domino concept. So, each student must be able to put the domino based on the concept for the day. Though medyo mahirap gawin kasi ahead of time, you have to write letters, you have to write words. I do not know if you are familiar with domino. Domino, para siyang, ano ba ito, parang ganito kalaki, pwede kang gawa ng ganito kalaki, na cardboard, tapos may hati sa gitna. Then you have concept here and then concept on the right side. So you have to give piece of domino among your students. Tapos maglalapag ka lang ng isa. Then they have to look into it kung kung sino may hawak ng concept na related on the concept na nandun sa floor. So pag nilagay na niya yon, so yung kabilang side, yung dalawang side magka-connect sila. Tapos yung kabilang side ay hindi nila ka-connect na concept. So students will look into whether the domino card that they're holding is connected to the concept that are laid on the floor, and so on and so forth, hanggang sa maubos lahat yung card. Medyo time consuming, pero you may use only few cards. Pwedeng 10 cards lang, tapos selected students na lang yung may hawak, pwedeng by group, and then yun, so pauna. Take turn yun, no? Or kung sino ang pwede. So pwede mo namang i-modify yung rules. Another is entry pass. So madali lang ito. So at the beginning of the lesson, only those with the knowledge about what transpired on the previous lesson should be allowed to enter. Though it is difficult, no, because what will happen to the students who cannot enter the class? And of course, the counterpart of this is the exit pass. Those who cannot explain the lesson will stay inside the room. So of course, you have to improvise a certain ticket. Pwedeng sila ka lang ng 1/4 typewriting, lagyan mo ng print, lagyan mo ng design, uniform, then pamimigay mo yan. Tapos doon nila susulat yung concept, no? Then you will be the one to collect it. And then, ayan, group mapping activity na ulit. So happy ending. Ayan. So this strategy can be applied in a science history class or any history class, no, or any topic with a certain story, no. Halimbawa, Romeo and Juliet. So your students will be asked to create their own ending, which will be a happy ending. Okay? Or halimbawa naman, doon sa history of the Philippines na namatay sa Rizal, namatay sa Bonifacio, ano kayo magandang ending nun? So your students will be the one to make. Okay? So that's why the term is happy ending. So another one is novelty. This strategy allows the teachers to perform or act out real character personalities in class. So this is very applicable to elementary, no? So yung teacher papasok naka-costume, so they will act it out, yung character, let's say, kung sino man, no? Kung sino man character yon, para maaliw naman yung mga estudyante niya. So again, this is very applicable to elementary. Pwede din naman gawin sa high school. Halimbawa, your topic is about sigaw sa Pugadlawin ni Bonifacio. So pwede pumasok ka nakapang Bonifacio, may dala kang sedula, improvise lang. Tapos pagpasok mo doon, sisigaw ka, mabuhay ang katipunan. Sabay pupunitin mo yung dala mong papel na alaala sedula. Diba? So ganun. So pwede. Ayan. So, there's this particular movie, a Hollywood film, wherein the teacher did this one, no? So every time yung school niya na pinasukan niya ay mababa yung parang sa national achievement test, tapos panay madaming dropouts, bully yung mga estudyante, binubully yung mga teachers, no? So isa sa mga strategies na ginawa niya is to come to class with different costumes to act in. Let's say, ang topic nila is the different presidents of the United States. No? So pumapasok siya na gano'n ang suot. Or may topic siya about scientist, nakapang-scientist din siya. So naging effective naman. So medyo medyo effort, no? Medyo effort ng konti. But again, these efforts that we are doing is for the benefit of our students naman. Okay, so another is force or relationship, di ba? So sapilitan na ginawa. But reciprocal questioning promotes the development of a higher order thinking skills in oral proficiency. So the students reads a part of the text and formulate question based on what he or she has read and ask a classmate to answer the question. So your classmates will be the one to you have to raise questions, and then your classmates will be the one to answer the question. So still it is student centered, no? In that case, students will learn how to formulate questions, and then the students will develop naman confidence in answering questions. So iba din naman kasi if the questions will come from the teacher, medyo may kaba factor. At least if it will come from the students, no? So medyo wala masyadong kaba. Okay, so speaking chips, so this is a strategy of motivating students to talk, recite, or participate in class. So ito naman medyo tangible yung award niya. So sa elementary, including kinder, 'di ba yung naglalagay ng star every time na nakakasagot. So dito naman, mamimigay ka ng parang chips or ticket. So sa huli, pwede nilang ipalit yung chips na yun or ticket into certain points. So may mga equivalent points ka. So pwede mo siyang gawing pang level up na as if you are playing a game, yung mga instead na chips gawin mong coins, 'di ba? So pagdami ng points na nakuha nila every time na sumasagot sila, at the end of it, bawat let's say per 10 coins na ma-collect nila per a week is equivalent to +1 in the quiz. So something like that. So strip is reading. Students are asked to read the text which was cut into strips. So ito naman yung, let's say, may story ka, tapos you have to cut. Pagpuputol-putulin yung story, pamimigay mo sa bawat isa sa kanila. So they need to read their assigned text well. After reading, they need to formulate questions about what they read. So hindi ito yung pagsusunod-sunodin, but different parts lang nung story. And then for each part, they have to read, and then they have to formulate questions based on what they read. So using broken pairs, this activity enables the students to look for their pair based on the concept learned in class. So parang domino effect, domino lang din. However, this time, may certain partners lang. So everyone will be given a certain concept. So isa lang. So make sure that these concepts that you will give them are by pair. No? So may magkakakonect yan. So pwedeng noun to maganda to sa English. So noun to noun, verb to verb, pronoun to pronoun, no? Halimbawa, yung he at saka she. So sila yung magka-partner. His and her. So mga ganun. So sa sciences naman, in high school it could be the periodic table, the elements in the periodic table. No, in numbers, pwedeng as simple as add and even or add to add. Depende na, no? Depende na sa topic and depende na sa creativity mo as a teacher. Another one is what if. Okay, so hindi ito yung tinanong mo dati. No? So what if is about asking what if questions. No? Madaming topic na pwede, let's say, in history. So what if nabuhay si Rizal? Diba? What if kakandidato si Rizal as a president? What will be his platforms? So what if hindi natuloy ang Second World War, 'di ba? What if hindi na-discover ang Mars? What if ang pusa ay aso at ang aso ay pusa? So something like that, 'di ba? What if hindi natutulog ang mga tao, 'di ba? What if walang pandemic, 'di ba? What kind of life do we have? So mga gano'n. So depende na dun sa topic mo, okay? So another one, this one is the following discussions naman, no, will include graphic organizers that you can also use as a strategy in teaching your class. So this one is pyramid. This could be done by individual or by group, but mas maganda to na by group. So you have there the idea, the different ideas done by the by the members of the group. So they have to write all the ideas there. about the topic. And then from the idea, they have to formulate a concept. And then from the concept, they have to look whether these are real. So they have to write the facts that are connected to the concept. Then after that, they have to formulate a generalization. Okay. So, yan. So another one is word wall. So this could be done na may parang may wall, may Manila paper ka sa likodan ng room mo. Then, halimbawa, you will say na your topic for this week is about figures of speech. So anyone who has an idea on that topic will be allowed to write. So sa huli, you have a lot of information already, and you can also ask them to summarize it at the end. So pwedeng nandun lang siya or pwedeng this is part of the lesson as part of the brainstorming activity. So another one is concept web. Yeah, so you have there the concept and then the web. So there is a cycle in the topic, so pwede yan. If there are processes in the topic, pwede yan. Okay, another speaker spot. So pwede itong sa buong room, i-clear out mo yung mga upuan, lagay mo sa labas or nasa side. Then hatiin mo yung floor into 4 quadrants. First quadrant, letter A. Second quadrant, letter B, C, and D. Lagyan mo ng chalk. Sulatan mo ng chalk. Or basta may palatandaan ka. And then, all the students are placed outside the quadrants. Then you will ask a certain question, no, with 4 choices. And then, in selecting, so they have to go to the quadrant that they chose. So with that, you can be able to summarize the lesson in a creative manner. Okay. So another is herringbone technique. Ayan. It's like also the first one, the sa pyramid, no? So you have there the idea of your classmates, of your students, no? And then based from the idea that they have formulated, they have to write the concepts. And then at the end of it is to form the conclusion based on the ideas and concepts that they have made. Okay, another is prediction chart. A prediction chart can be used at the beginning of the lesson, no? Without telling them what's the actual answer. So prediction chart at first, they have to guess, they have to provide evidence, and at the end of the lesson, they have to write the actual answer based on the learnings on the discussion. Okay, so that's it for the approaches and strategies for learner-centered teaching. Of course, there are a lot of approaches and strategies that you can use, which may not be included in the presentation, right? So thank you so much for listening.